Hey, this is Mark Washington, MTC Media. So I was reading Andrew Marchand's article about Pat McAfee, and it's your usual stuff. McAfee's ability to keep his own individual brand as he's partnering with ESPN, not necessarily working for ESPN. His apparent banning of Adam Schefter, even though in the article it did say that Schefter will be back um, on next Thursday, I believe, or this Thursday, whenever you're watching this. And then sort of some pettiness of there was some sort of segment where he's going up against an Oklahoma softball pitcher and he swings and misses and gets upset that they show the swings and misses. But here's what I will say. Um, if you're upset with where ESPN is going, the only entity you can be upset with is ESPN. Just like a lot of traditional or non-traditional or things that started off non-traditional that went to traditional content providers, when the social media world really blew up and people started truly using that to consume content, ESPN didn't adjust. No, we always talk about the newspapers that didn't adjust until they didn't adjust. But ESPN didn't adjust. They didn't adjust or have a plan for what happens now when I can buy packages to professional sports and I can see these teams. So I'm not waiting to watch Sports Center to get highlights because you have the NFL Sunday Ticket, or for some people the Red Zone, or the NBA League Pass, or Major League Baseball's extra innings. On top of that, entities providing highlights on the social media platform that you're part of. So now I don't have to wait until 11 o'clock Sports Center to get these coveted highlights. I've seen them, a few minutes after the play actually happened. And I just don't know that ESPN knew what to do. I'll give you something else that they didn't adjust to. They did not adjust to a world where people want to be service providers and not employees. Let me explain. We saw this before where America workers take sports out of it, especially in the Washington, D.C. area. We're starting to look at ourselves as service providers as we went through the pre-IPO time period. And I was one of them. I was in there, and to keep costs down, people didn't want you to think that you were an employee. They wanted you to think that you were providing this service. If you want to work from home, work from home. Hey, you don't have to buy lunch. We're going to provide you lunch. We provide the company lunch. Just like all these things that made you feel like I'm here providing a service more than I am an employee. And those entities knew that you might be there grinding for that first year and a half. They really get the company ramp up, and then you take what you got out of usually a job that maybe you didn't quite have the qualifications for when they first gave it to you, but now you have certifications that you didn't have and all these things, and you would cash it in somewhere else in exchange for, building and navigating through some, sometimes that maybe left you questioning if that's the right place for you. So that entity, that mentality, really, really started burgeoning during that time. And then the bottom fell out of the pre-IPO, and people, went back to thinking themselves as employees because that at least you had a certain sense of comfort, a certain sense of certainty. And that lasted all the way up to COVID. When COVID got here, a lot of people started working from home. There was people trying to cut overhead. So now they only wanted you to charge the hours that you work. They didn't want to really have full-time employees. They wanted part-time employees, blah, 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 blah. So again, people went back to saying, okay, no problem. I'm providing a service. I'm not an employee. What does this have to do with ESPN? You look at it, Pat McAfee has a deal that everyone probably is somewhat envious of. Stephen A. Smith, He has a deal that makes him an ESPN employee, but allows him to act as an independent entity where he can grow his brand at other places. ESPN used to develop talent. Now, talent comes into ESPN and uses ESPN as a platform for other things. Another example, Microsoft. I remember back when working for Microsoft was the big thing. And it was a lot of young people on their hustle trying to get Microsoft on their resume, trying to get all the Microsoft certifications back when it meant something. And then they were going somewhere else. They weren't really invested in Microsoft. Well, ESPN, for most of its early life, you were invested in ESPN. And ESPN has not adjusted to the service providing social media driven entity to find a place where they have a soft landing. And Pat McAfee is part of that. Stephen A. Smith is part of that. The rest of the talent that's there is kind of dry. ESPN doesn't develop talent anymore. ESPN doesn't introduce you to talent anymore. We all know who the talent is. And frankly, their investment in ESPN is not permanent. It's not, the worldwide leader. It is, let me leverage this for all these other things that's going to help my brand. And to be frank with you, I really don't have an issue with that. I just feel like ESPN needs to learn how to live in this world and improve its product outside of just gobbling up, broadcast rights fees and actually put out a good product. Because right now the product stinks. It's Marcus Washington, MTC Media.